Well, we did. There it is. Hard cut to live. Surprise, everybody. Episode number 8 of the Deadpan Diaries. I had to cut off Bronze. She had a great idea for an awesome shirt where we abbreviate the entire show, which I still want to do, and then it just has to wrap around your whole freaking body because it's so silly.
He's so good.
That would be good. Then people would be like, "What's that shirt saying?" You'd be like, and you have to like twirl around and be like, "Look at it." Yeah, I like that idea. Anyways, thank you all for joining us. This is episode 8. We have a guest on, Eric, again, because Eric's just so awesome that we're like, there's a chance we'll have him back on even next week or whatever, because he actually suggested like 9 good topics, and I like all of them. And he's just a fun, good guy to talk to. So, Eric, hi.
Hey. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Yeah, I'm super honored to be back again. I'm going to try to be, I don't know, it's a tough act to follow myself.
Yourself, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll do what I can.
Yeah.
So thanks. Seriously, thanks everyone for having me. And today's one of the topics I wanted to talk about here is friendship. Specifically, I want to talk about like making and maintaining friendships when we are mostly online or on our computers, or we kind of like live remotely. However, or if we move to a new city, and I kind of want to really start coming out swinging, if we don't mind, with some heavy hitters.
Oh my God. Well, hang on. Let's do introductions. But yes.
I'm like very monogamous, so if you could just please keep that on lock.
No.
Thank you.
I have no. To quote a role model of mine, I have no chill.
Yeah.
So, that's disgusting. Back in my day, people just had one, and that was enough.
One friend, and it was their husband or wife.
Yeah.
And they were of the same race. Yeah.
You don't come out here swinging on our show.
Sorry, that was me with my inappropriate joke. Anyways,
that was you. You went up to my inappropriate joke.
It just keeps going.
I just want to know why y'all can't get on the same page, like, because the audience was disappointed last week because Eric wore a tank top and you wore sleeves, and now you swapped, and I just want to know why you can't get your shit together.
It's gonna happen. That's why I'm gonna keep out of mom. We're gonna sync at one point. It's gonna be beautiful. I did like that people were calling Eric my younger brother though, and I was like, well, first of all, how do we know he's younger? Okay, hang on. Yeah. What's that make me the old what? Anyways, it's funny, but let's keep doing the introductions. Bronze came in here post gym as well, so if you guys see some guns on there, I apologize ahead of time. Whoa, Bronze. Whoa. Okay. How you doing?
He's got a scratch.
Just had a scratch. Yeah.
It's not even a gun. It's like a pea shooter.
No, it's still a gun.
It's true. It's not when you kill somebody with, hi, hello, I'm that Bronze girl. Thank you for joining us today. This is my favorite day of the week.
Yeah. I freaking love these talks. I too just got back from the gym, rushed it in there. Because on my Tuesdays, I'm learning my own schedule as well. We're going to do a Warhammer stream after this with a bunch of friends. But I'm like, you know what? I'll get into the gym after that. And it ends at like midnight. I'm like, you know what? Fuck the gym. I'm not going to that at all. So I've learned I need to rush in and get in before. But I also didn't time it very well today, so I'm all sweaty. And that's it. So the sex appeal is going to have to be up to those two. Next week, I'll resume my normal status as the eye candy of the show. And I appreciate your guys' patience on that. Just as general, I always want to just say thank you to you guys. The comments, the feedback, everything's been really, really lovely. And we just really enjoy doing this. So without further ado, Eric said he wants to come out swinging. And before you do, I like this because I was like, friendship, that's a cool subject. But I did that thing as a host where I was like, what is Bronze and Eric going to talk about? Because I'm going to be like, I like friends. But then Eric's like, how to make friends. And I was like, that gets asked all the time. There's so many people that have such a tough time making friends all over the place. And then my brain started going all over the place of like the fun stuff of, how to make friends and everything. I just love it. So Eric, thank you. Thank you for the topic. And please tell us where you'd like to start.
Sure. I want to start by posing a question to both of you. Have you ever had to end a friendship?
Yeah. Bronze, do you want to share? This is a tough one.
It is a tough one. Yes, I have. Multiple times. Sometimes it's because of irreconcilable differences. And I've gotten some flack for this before when I've like discussed it online in the past, but I feel like if friendships are not adding anything to your life, and if they're taking more than they're adding, you should do what's best for your mental health and cut them off. Now, It's kind of controversial because a lot of people think that that's very like self-absorbed or fucked up to just like drop somebody if they're putting too many demands on you. So before I like expand on that more, I want to clarify that. By that I mean when really a friendship becomes so draining that you're losing more from it than you're putting or that you're getting out of it or that you're putting into it. That can be because of a lot of different reasons. Sometimes I feel like I have friendships where the person continuously pushed my boundaries, like
Hmm.
just over and over again by like making remarks that were personal.
Hmm.
I'll give you an example and I think hopefully this will like just clear it all up. There is somebody that I was friends with for 8 years, 9 years. And they were friends with my significant other as well. In fact, they introduced us. And over the years, like his personality kind of started to change a little bit. And we went from like, oh, we're just friends. We play games together. We play World of Warcraft with each other to him kind of like deciding that that stuff was for losers
Yeah.
and that he was going to go outside and hike and mountain climb, which is cool. But that, you know, this was a waste of time and this is what losers do. And I've grown up now and that's cool. That's his life. But for me, the line was drawn when he started making deprecating remarks about the fact that my hobbies hadn't changed. And I remember like a couple times a year, he would like come up to my place here in Seattle and he'd like hang out for the holidays. He'd spend his holidays with me because neither of us really got along with our families. And so he would just come spend the holidays at my place and like spend the night. We were that close. We were like family.
Yeah.
And I remember like one day he like made like 3 remarks too many that weekend. And that for me was it. And I never talked to him after that. One of them was like, it was a busy week and I had some dishes in the fridge or not in the fridge, obviously in the sink. And I it was just a really busy week. And he made a remark about something about how like, well, this isn't how adults live. Like adults don't play video games and have dirty dishes. And I remember being like, are you saying I'm not an adult? And he's like, well, I'm just trying to grow up. And like, you know, like this isn't a grown up way to live. And at that point, I like at first I was hurt.
Yeah.
And because I felt like so just wildly judgmental. But I understood he was like trying to come from a place of like, I want you to be better. And I'm getting better and you have to get better too. But it really reinforced that he thought I was a lowlife. Like, and it was, he put it on himself to like fix me or pull me up with him. And I thought about it and it's like, I remember what I said. I was like, you've had 2 DUIs. You literally have to breathe into a breathalyzer to start your fucking car. You're in debt. I don't have any of those problems. Like, I'm not taking life advice from you. And the fact that you think I'm a fucking loser compared to you because I play video games and have some dirty dishes just shows that you are at heart like a child. And I want you to get the fuck out of my house.
Really?
And for
He said
him,
that?
yeah.
Damn.
And for him, that came out of like left field. But it was like it was like death by 1,000 paper cuts. It was like all these little remarks. And I remember crying over it, like, because he was so close to me. And I remember talking to my significant other because this dude was close to both of us. And he was my best friend. And so it legitimately hurt me when he would say things like that. But
Oh yeah.
the one thing I regret about the entire situation was that I waited to hit the point. Like I was younger then. I think now I would have said something sooner. I waited to hit the point where it was like I exploded.
Yeah.
But that was just one example. But like to me, it's like it hit this point where I was like, he's taking too much joy out of my life, and he's not giving me any of the happiness we used to have. We used to be best friends. We used to do WoW battlegrounds together, and now he makes me cry. And it's like we got through, both of us got through like breakups together. You know, like we were that fucking close, and that was it. And I still think about it to this day that I'm like, maybe if I had said something sooner and it, you know, like set some ground rules, like, hey, you can't talk to me like that, I wouldn't have exploded on him like that. But that was like the first like friend breakup I had that was like a big friend breakup.
Whew. Big one indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's almost like important to set as a groundwork is that obviously no one story is gonna be able to encompass the whole thing. I think you did a good job, but like it definitely sounds like there's a build up and there's a lot of kind of toxicity to get to that point. Because I think someone's gonna from the outside in look in and be like, what he said one bad comment and you threw him out of your house and you never talked again. It's like, no, it sounds like it was a self-deprecating, toxic thing that was building up. And I think one of the fun things we can get into with this conversation too is like being aware of your friends as well. Because for one person, maybe those comments isn't that big of a deal, but for Bronze, it's a big fucking deal. Like letting this person in her house, taking care of them. They were like supportive of each other, and then for this person to just decide that their life changed, and then they're gonna like try and pass that along to you through negativity and like dragging you down. That's that kind of disconnect that I see with a lot of friendships. And I actually, and this will also be controversial, but I think it's very adult to view a relationship as something that you don't have to be in. I think there's a lot of people who are like, we're friends, so I just have to do everything now that comes along with that. And the only thing I would add to this, and I think, you know, Bronze's instincts is correct. It sounds like this was a while ago, but like, I personally would, just the person I am, and again, this is me, so I'm not judging your situation, but I would have told them ahead of time to give them a chance to change.
I think now, if I had the knowledge I have now, looking back, it's about the thing I learned from that painful, because no one's perfect. I'm not perfect.
Right.
The thing I learned from that situation years after the fact was that it's about like what I began to answer Eric's question with was it's about setting boundaries. Like if I had set the boundary, like, don't talk to me like that. That hurts my feelings. If I let you into my home, you can't judge my lifestyle on that, you know, level. Like you don't know what happened this week or why I have dishes, you know, like it becomes, you hit a point where it's like, if I had the maturity I have now, looking back, and the immaturity I think comes from, or I should say what made me immature back then was thinking, balancing it. Cause we all do that, right? I'm sure we've all done that. Like, oh, he said this mean thing, but he got me through my first breakup. We've been friends for 8 years. We raided together. We PvP together. We spent hours every week together. He's the first person I ever got drunk with. Like, you balance it. No, it can't be that bad. Like, we're best friends. Instead of being like, one good thing does not negate that he said this awful thing to me.
Right.
And I wish I had the maturity back then to be like, hey, we're best friends. We're very close, but you hurt me when you said that.
And friendship, you know, on some level, this is a little higher level, but like I feel like it shouldn't be transactional, which is exactly what you just described, right? Like, well, this person's making me cry right now, but they did help me with this other thing a while ago. That's not how friendship really works. It can work that way incidentally, but obviously it comes down to like communication where it's like, hey, you're hurting my feelings. If that person's like, well, tough, you need to hear this. It's like, and sometimes you do. But anyways, for me, this real short, in high school, I grew up with this group of friends, and strictly very middle class. Like we didn't have any, you know, we're not talking about gang warfare and like really tough upbringing, but middle class brings its own problems because you have that comfortability and because your parents typically kind of leave you to yourselves. We were a bunch of hooligans. So my parents really wanted me to go to this private high school in Seattle called O'Day. Amazing school. It absolutely changed my life. The rest of my friends went to Jackson High School in Mill Creek / Everett. Which can be a good school, but like most public schools, it's like, it's what you make it. So it can be a good school, or it can be where you find black tar heroin. And a lot of my friends got into the like hard drug scene, started dealing, started doing, I'm not talking like they were smoking the devil's lettuce. And I'm like, oh my God, and you guys had a beer? I'm not talking about that. I partied too, but I mean, they were like literally had coke habits and shit like that. And they were getting pretty, and this is when we were 17 and, you know, 16, 17, 18 years old. So for me, I was like, nope, I don't want anything to do with that. I want to do well. It just didn't interest me, to be honest with you. And maybe it was immature at the time, but it was such a severe fork in the road of our lives that I also didn't really communicate to them. Like, if you're doing drugs, I'm not going to talk to you. It was more of a like, you know, they'd be like, let's go to this party, Jeff. I'd be like, no thanks. You know, so it was just kind of like a natural separation. They went off and hard partied, and I just kind of wasn't interested in that, so I kind of hung out with the friends that didn't do that. It was really sad because a lot of these people were my absolute best friends, and later one of my buddies would OD and die and leave a child behind. Another one had a schizophrenic episode and had a psychic break and actually had to be institutionalized. They had a boating accident because they were drunk, and several of them broke their backs and one died. Like, it was, most of my friends I grew up with either died or ended up really messed up. So I feel fairly justified because that could have been me. I was kind of one of the ringleaders in middle school and going into high school, but I just conscientiously made the choice to not go too far with it, whereas a lot of them did. So that was where I left a lot of my friends behind. I regret it, and it's sad to this day because we were thick as thieves, but it was just a very clear like difference in morality, basically, for me.
Mm-hmm.
God, yeah. Uh, on a related note, I kind of stopped talking to my best friend from college because of not necessarily morality, but because of kind of politics and his own personality. You know, he's my best friend. We had the same, we went to the same classes and stuff like that. We're up all night drinking, studying together, all that kind of stuff. However, after college, he was my first roommate out of college too. We would kind of like try to hang out with other people and try to meet like bring up these other cool people. I met a bunch of cool grad students here this time in Philadelphia. So there's just a ton of people, just like there's so many colleges in Philadelphia. There's like 10. And so there's so many people around our age. I start hanging out with people who are not as wealthy as he is or as privileged of a life as my best friend is. And I'm starting to understand their experiences a little bit more. And it definitely comes up a few times when we're all hanging out together. Like my social sphere is starting to change, and he is definitely not of this social sphere in terms of just kind of the way he would like distance himself, the way he. I would like to describe his personality as someone who would rather be right than be like anything at the expense of friendships. Yeah, than be liked. Yeah, I'd rather be right. It's the most important thing in the world. Cannot let points go. Right? Cannot drop something. That type of person, right? And like I loved it growing up because just like your story with Bronze, like yeah, we would hang out all the time. He was the person who got me into World War II reenacting, and we have so much fun time doing that stuff. But you know, after that and starting meeting some other people, like I started hanging out with, just incidentally wound up hanging out with a lot of people who are like LGBTQ stuff in Philadelphia, and like listening to their lives and their stories and stuff like that, and just hearing how he just like flippantly disregards their own experience. I'm like, that's not really cool, man, and stuff. And he's like, what's wrong with it? And then you know, it just kept going more and more, and then we just slowly just slid away. And yeah, I was like, I just don't want this in my life anymore. I'd rather just move out.
That's always tough because I don't know, some of my best friendships are with people, and I think they're so valuable, are with people that don't agree with you but can handle it, right? Like, and I'm not saying you have the same situation. I'm saying I personally have been very lucky to have various friends that are like devout atheists, like militant atheists, and I was raised Catholic, so it's not that we had to be mortal enemies. We just didn't agree on some pretty big subjects, but we still had a mutual respect for each other and could look past it. It's not that we thought we felt the same. And I think that's such a mark of maturity that I'm actually just strongly attracted to. In fact, like if someone could be like, "Whoa, I totally don't agree with you, but I'm okay with it. Like I'm confident enough in my beliefs that I don't need an echo chamber around me, and I can challenge myself, and you can challenge yourself." I think that's so engaging and so much more interesting. And it works both ways, right? Like I don't want to be around a bunch of people that agree with me on everything. It's part of the reason I love this show, and I hope we bring on up guests and topics, and I hope we go to battle on a couple of these, because that's one of my favorite things. Not because I want to win or I disagree with someone, but because I don't know how I feel about my own thoughts until someone challenges them. Like it's so easy to just be like, yeah, this is what I believe to be true. And if nobody challenges that, you just kind of march on your way. And I've had similar experiences to you. I like I said, I went to an all boys. Well, I didn't say that part, but it was an all boys high school, so very hyper masculine, very alpha male. So it has all the very much so predictable stereotypes. I was that guy that used to be like, "There's a pink car, that's so gay," or I would say these things, but it wasn't until college and being around a different crowd of people and the debate team where they called me out on it. We're like, "Whoa, you don't say that shit," and I was like, "Well, okay." And then you had to think about it as opposed to just go about it. Just opened up my worldview. Yeah. And that's what friendship to me is one of the biggest, most valuable parts. And that's part of the reason why too, in the past episodes of this and in this episode, I'll say it again, my favorite friends are the ones I've argued with or fought with. Not because I want to make them feel bad, but because I almost inevitably will if we're talking about meaningful subjects. And then one of my favorite things is to try and see the perspective, apologize, understand them. And that talk is so strengthening and good that I seek it. I think it's worth pursuing.
Real quick off of that is like when you're able to both come back after a fight like that, that's like a good handshake. That's a reaffirmation that our relationship is more important. That like it's a signal that, hey, I value you and want to make this work. Right. not necessarily, sometimes it's actually the best to not always do that, but that is definitely a suggestion, and that's sort of what reaffirms it, is that it's proof that, I'm not ready to give up our friendship yet.
I'm so used to like having things that you just don't talk about. And that's a big part of that. And I'm not saying, oh, you can't be friends with somebody who has different political ideology. I think a big part of it is growing up in India, that everybody I grew up with was a different religion than me. And everybody belongs to a different caste, and everybody has a different world experience. And so there are things you just do not talk about. Like,
it's cultural as well, right?
It's stupid. Yeah. Yeah. And like, I'm Sikh, I was raised in the Sikh faith, and there's like large parts of Sikhism that are just like, this is stupid. Like, oh, we don't fast because fasting is dumb and it's superstitious and it's bad for you. And it's funny because like I had girls in my class that observed like certain holy holidays and would fast, but you don't talk about it. You don't sit here and say like, listen, an eclipse doesn't happen because your fasting isn't going to make your husband's life longer, like, even though I was raised to like be like, oh, this is, and there's a lot of stuff like that. Sikhs don't believe in idol worship. They think that shit's like ridiculous. It's dumb. God doesn't live in a golden statue. I went to school with girls who 100% believed in idol worship, And so it's one of those things that you don't speak about it ever. You don't sit there and one thing that I think it always throws me off, like, because when I went to college and you'd see like atheists get in arguments or debates with like people who believe in God, I would be like, why are you so fucking stupid? Like you just don't talk about it, because that's how I was raised. Like, my best friend was Hindu. My other best friend was Muslim. You don't talk about it. So here it's actually funny to me. It's like when people sit there. One of my best friends in college went to school, Trinity University in Canada, to become like I don't know the term, in the Catholic Church. Like he's like, yeah, I believe so. He like
priest, deacon.
Oh, a deacon if they can marry, like I guess.
That. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's going to college to like be in the Catholic Church.
The college is a seminary.
I believe so. I don't know the official term. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah. A religious person.
Yes. And
a cleric.
He was like a youth pastor. And I remember like going with him to mass one time, just like, to see what it was about. Cause I have a healthy curiosity about everything.
Yeah.
And, I didn't agree with like a lot of it, but I was like, thank you so much for including me. This is so wonderful. And I was like, it's so cool that you guys have coffee and donuts after the service. And Sikhs do that too. We also break bread after we pray. And it was like a great moment, but I've grown up like not debating people on their beliefs, religious beliefs specifically.
Yeah.
And that also usually in India, that trickles into political beliefs as well. So it's it's actually fascinating to hear like, oh yeah, you argue with people, because it's like culturally, that's just not something you do where I come from.
Right.
And as you tell this, what becomes, I mean, this is how I felt anyways, but like the ability to do that is a privilege. And that's why I pursue it and think it's so interesting and awesome to have in your life, because there are places where if you're like, I feel this way, they're like, okay, the secret police are coming to murder you now. And we laugh as mostly Americans here. And it's like, no, I mean, that's actually their reality. You cannot actually identify yourself as a certain way. Or let's not even take it to that extreme. There's certain families, and this happens in America too, of course, but you're like, I'm gay or I'm bisexual. Your family's like, well, we don't talk to you anymore. You're out. So the ability to find friends where you can share and talk about these things is a privilege, and it's awesome. And that's why it's like a unique resource that I pursue. Like when I find somebody that I'm like, oh, wow, we don't agree on this, and I love that we talk about it. That's not, I don't know that that's, I don't know. In my experience, I've been very lucky. I've met a lot of people that way, but I think there's places in the world where that's the absolute rarity.
And I'm always down to discuss it, but I think I come from a background where it's like, I accept it. Like, I'm never going to convince you that you're, to not be Hindu. Right. So even if we were to sit and have a conversation about it and talk about some of like, some in general, like, there's a lot of backwards like beliefs and stuff in India, especially about homosexuality, that I think we can do away with a lot of that bullshit, and like the way we treat women, I think we can fix a lot of that. It's always down to have these conversations, but I think like one thing that annoys me is I'm totally down to debate. It's if you get stuck, like Eric was saying, on being right and trying to tell me that I'm wrong. That's where it's going to be like, no, we can discuss this, but like at the end of it, if we don't agree, you need to like accept it. And
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is my upbringing. I've never tried to convince somebody that, you know, why are you Catholic? This makes no sense. Like,
Right.
no, we can have a conversation about it, but I'm going to accept this thing about you because that's just who you are.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that?
Oh, no, I'm absolutely there with, it's not that I don't like to debate people on their fundamental beliefs. I just don't think you're going to be able to convince them in a conversation that like they should totally redo their entire life. It just doesn't make sense to me. For the most part, that's not really something they reason themselves into. It's sort of just environment and just it's requires so much more. I'd rather just if I do have a good opposing belief, I would rather represent it through action. And like if there is a demonstrable difference in like, you know, if someone's Sikh and like I'm not, like how does that get reflected, right? Rather than like the actual belief of reason why, it's like how does it get reflected? Are you going to be like I want to be reasonable and tolerable and normal and hang out with people and just do normal stuff. Are you going to do that too? Cool. Like, what is the actual output rather than like the intentions? Like, I don't care about your reasons really, as long as the outcome's kind of fine, right? Like, we're just going to hang out. We're going to be sociable. The problem that I have is that when I have multiple groups of friends that maybe not don't always see eye to eye, then I'm doing that sort of math of like that sort of like not necessarily a matchmaker, but like you're a liability to this group right now. Like I don't know if you're going to get angry at this brunch about something that's going to come. I don't want to deal with that today. I'm hungover. I can't. And no, and all of a sudden you stop inviting people over time and that kind of thing, based on who you're hanging out with. It's more about like, I don't want, because you're going to come in, this person comes in very hard, very strong all the time. It's like, I don't want that right now. I found a group of people who are a lot more relaxed and comfortable, and we could have more of an open dialogue with a respect our differences. And that if you come into this conversation, I'm not sure where it's going to go. And frankly, I don't want to take that risk. I'm too hungover. And like that kind of change, right? Just figuring out when to kind of draw those boundaries. And all of a sudden you start making those types of excuses of not being like, I don't really want to hang out with them because I'm hanging out with these other people. And then it kind of just ends up being, I don't really need to hang out with them at all. I'm getting my social sustenance from another group.
I have a question for both of you.
Yeah.
And I love asking people this. Okay. Let's have a hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
Well, this is sort of hypothetical. All three of us are friends, hypothetically, in an alternate universe. It's the bizarro version of us. Okay. We're very close. Me and Jeff stopped talking. Okay. But me and you, Eric, are still friends. Do you continue to talk to Jeff or not? Because this is a huge hiccup in a lot of friends groups, and it almost ties in perfectly to what you were just talking about.
Definitely depends on the circumstances. You know what? Like if Jeff is like fucking sending dick pics or like serial abusing somebody, like you're gone. You know what I mean? Like I don't why, but like it really depends on the context. And I hate that answer because it's such a like Weasley answer. But if it's an amicable like split, being like, you know, like or if it's like you guys are in a business and there's money involved and something happened about payments and you didn't get paid and you don't want to talk to each other anymore, I'll still be friends with both of them.
It's a tough one because I think if you boil it down to its simplest terms, it sounds very cliquey and high schooly, but it's actually something that I'm very personally dealing with right now. You know, I'm going through divorce, and Anna and I had a lot of the exact same friends. We were together 13 years, so like our lives were completely melded. And one of the things I struggle with the most is I can feel the clout of awkwardness with some of our mutual friends, and I don't want them to feel bad. I don't, you know, like I'm like, this is our thing. I don't even publicly deal with it at all. Like I just kind of move on. And I have friends that just have not talked to me since it happened. And it's not that I take that super personal and be like, they must hate me or there's something weird going on. I think it's because it's so cripplingly weird and awkward for them that if I were to reach out and be like, yo, you haven't talked to me. I know what's going on. Like, I hope you feel okay. And then they're like, yeah, totally fine. You know, like it's just a weird, inhuman situation. And then I had to work on myself because there's a lot of people that I love a lot that haven't, you know, reached out or haven't spoken to me. And I have to work on myself to not take that personally either because they're on their own path. They're on their own journey. And I don't take it as like a personal assault or whatever and then be like, well, I'm never talking to them again or they must be on her team or something like that. I'm trying to unwork that kind of natural thought process that I think you sneak into. And then, but I will tell you for the people listening, I've had mutual friends And these are people that were like, this one person was Anna's roommate. She's her best friend. She's a very good friend of mine. So I just naturally was kind of like, well, she's lost to me. And that's just a fact of life, and that's okay. But she reached out and said, hey, I just want you to know I still love you. I care about you, and I hope you're okay. And that like power of love, like shot through the fucking darkness and just like pierced me. And we're not even, I'm not going to like tell you the story about how we're going to go for a car ride together and she's on Team Jeff. It's nothing like that. But just that kind of reaching out meant so much to me as a human being that it inspired me to think that way for other people. Because I'm going to have other friends. They're going to go through breakups. They're going to go through weird things, where it's exactly the scenario you talked about, Bronze, where they're fighting. And if I do the loving thing where I'm not like, I'm on this person's side, I instead, and again, unless it's like they broke into a bank and they were like, why didn't you help me fucking drive away after I killed 3 cops? Like, well, no, probably don't talk to that guy. But if it's just a weird thing where 2 people can't get along, if you show compassion and love in a time when they weren't expecting it, that can put a smile on their face for a month. That can have them, that can help that person see light where they only saw darkness. And it's so powerful. But so it had me thinking that.
Yeah.
To build on that, oh man, let's get into actually like making friends and stuff like that. Reaching out, I've had great success being the person who reaches out to do that thing. Like, hey, I heard you're moving. Like, do you need a hand with that? I would love to help you.
Oh yeah.
And I know we're not like really close friends, but just
you'll rock someone's socks with that kind of thing.
Yeah,
the unexpected move of compassion.
I need to practice that.
Me too.
I was nervous when we were going to get into this part of the conversation because I suck at letting people know that.
I really do as well.
Cool. I would love to be your friend. I think most people think I'm just an island. I'll even like see on social media like, oh, so-and-so's moving to my neighborhood. That's kind of cool.
I'll do it right now.
Hang out.
You're a good roommate and I like you.
I try my best.
Thank you.
Aww.
Oh.
That was
He probably didn't take that serious though, but I mean it, Shane.
I love you too, Jeff.
All right, get out of here.
Aw. See, I need to get better at that. I can't.
I do
that.
too, though. Yeah.
I suck at like. I think people think I'm like I'm not into them, but I'm like the most innocent about that shit. Like I'll talk to like my friends I already have and be like, I'm gonna be in a D&D game with so and so. I hope we can become friends. I'm so excited. And then like 4 weeks later, I'm like, yeah, she won't talk to me, so I hate her now.
Yeah, burn him to the ground.
She thinks she's better than me, and I don't want to be her friend anymore. And it really hurt my feelings because I was really excited to be friends.
Well, to speak to that again, though, I love it because this is, like I said, this is something I've been dealing with pretty intimately recently. But it's a vulnerability because if you are that person that reaches out and says something really nice and loving, not to make it too much of a gender issue, but it's really funny for me too. Like, because I have female friends, I have people, and I've talked about this in previous episodes, right? I want to just tell people they're beautiful or whatever without them being like, I have a girlfriend or boyfriend, please fuck off. And I'm like, that's not what I meant. I just want to say something nice. And they're like, all right, creeper. But the same thing's true with friends, right? Like if you're like, hey, just want you to know I'm thinking about you, and if I can help, let me know. It's easy, like that no response. We've all been there. And you're like, you like check your phone, it says seen, and you're like, whoa, okay, right through the heart. So it's scary, right? And I think that's why Bronze and I, and other people, of course, have this thing where it's like, the safer thing is to say nothing and to just feel nice and whisper about it to my safe friends and just deal with it that way. The harder thing is to reach out and expose yourself.
It's like being stabbed through the chest.
Yeah.
It's like the worst. You're like, oh my God, all I wanted to do was be your friend, a heartless cretin.
So, oh my God. So the way I learned this skill was actually reverse engineering how I wanted to start dating after a bad breakup. Was literally like, how do I reach out to someone who might be interested and set dates and realize it's maybe, they're not interested or whatever. It's the same thing with friends. I like the revelation there was it's the same thing as friends. Like if I was organizing something with a friend, what would I say and do from there? But I had to learn how to do that with friends because I wasn't good at it through dating and figuring out. And like, here's like the general thing from my perspective, from a guy's perspective here, where it goes to like setting up and organizing times to meet and date, like, and just actionable things, right? Hey, let's go do this activity on this day. Is this day good or is this other day good? And providing two times. If they say those don't work and don't provide another one, you're done. You're fine. You provided one and a backup. And if they say no, for either of them, it's incumbent on the other person to basically offer that next like reverse one, right? You did your due diligence, and if they don't, then that's cool. And that's the same thing with friends. Like, hey, like I would love to hang out with you. Are you busy this weekend? I want to go catch the new Avengers movie. If you're busy that time, like maybe sometime later in that week, like maybe like Thursday or next Friday, you know.
Mhm.
And then if they say no or they don't say anything, it's like cool. Well, I tried.
I'm jealous
Right.
you have the ability to do this.
What? I mean, you have to if you wanted. So I pretty much only dated
I'm a little
online.
bitter.
I did everything through like OkCupid and stuff. So like I had to be able to reach out and do this stuff because it just wouldn't work otherwise. I would just be alone because I didn't know how to meet people at this time. But
That's fair.
yeah. So I've also had to spend a lot of time coaching my girlfriend a little bit on how to help maintain friends in this kind of way as well. And it's sort of really kickstarted and kind of why I wanted to bring this up as a good
Dude, I'm going to
conversation.
come out and say it. Girls have a tougher time making friends than guys, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Every girl I've ever met has never said that
It's hard.
they can make friends
It's
easily.
hard. Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, some of the problems
Yeah.
I've had with my lady friends is just like, or previous relationships is we go a place and then they're like it like takes them 4 or 5 months before they even have a friend. So
Yeah.
the loneliness kicks in, the insecurity, they get really upset. It sucks. It's tough.
Yeah.
I think girls in general can be very icy to each other too. I actually have a really funny story about that. So like
Do tell.
I was like, I thought this chick was like super fucking cool and we worked together at the studio. And she made the first move and was like, we should totally get lunch or something. And I was like so fucking excited. But I don't know where I got the vibe. I was like, I think she thinks this is a date. But
How do you say it?
Is that like homophobic of me
Mm-hmm.
to be like, oh, we're a lesbian and you're like going to lunch with me. So clearly you think this is a date. That seems kind of homophobic. But what if I don't? Then she's going to think we're dating, but I'm in a relationship. I had
Oh, I
6
love this.
different conversations with 6 different people about this exact topic because I really wanted to hang out with her. And I was like, depending on how I handle this,
Oh my God.
she won't
Yeah.
be my friend anymore. So I show up and I'm like sweating, like super nervous the whole time, and we have a great lunch and we go for a great walk.
Then we had sex. And
then I'm like,
I still don't know.
how do I do this? How do I do it? And then finally, I'm like, I'll just casually mention my significant other in the conversation.
Oh
but it's
my
me.
God.
So it doesn't happen. And then finally I'm just like, hey, I'm not single.
Oh no.
And I still really want to be your friend, but now I feel like I've led you on.
Wow.
And she started dying laughing. And she was like, okay, well, that's good because I did think this was a date.
Ah.
I'm single. I'm so sorry. And she's like, but this still went really well. And I think we should still be friends. And we became really good friends. And we're still friends. Yeah.
See, that's a good story. You actually called a spade a
About
spade.
that, though. Like, she still laughs about that. She's like, you screamed in my face, like, I'm not single. And I'm just like, and I don't like you like that, but I still want to be your friend.
That's so funny.
And she was just like, why didn't you like tell me before? And I was like, because I thought you'd like not go to lunch with me and I needed a chance to I wanted to get to the interview, and not be weeded out at the resume phase. And she was like, this is how you view hanging out with people? I was like, yeah. I was like, if I have lunch with her, she's going to be like, oh, this is really working. We should be friends. But if I tell you I'm not single and then you're not going to want to hang out with me because you're not going to think it's a date, I'm not going to be friends. But now you're invested because I'm cool and we have a lot in common. And she was like, that's crazy. You're crazy. We should still be friends, but you need help.
I love it. Everyone deals with this, by the way. It's the kind of, I don't know. In my experience, the fun thing of being a guy is there's just a level of sexual predatoriness off of guys or whatever. So every girl that has a significant other will be like, we should hang out. My boyfriend's a big fan of yours. And I'll always be like, thank you for saying that. Now I know where we're at. Okay. Girls are very good about being like, the boyfriend is he exists. And I'll be like, yep, you did it. Thank you very much. Now I won't have to worry and sweat. So there we go. It's always funny though. But then there's people that do it at the weirdest times too, which is my new experience. There's people that are chatting me up for a month, and then a month into it, they're like, yeah, dude, my boyfriend's just watching your stream. And I'm like, what? A month later you mentioned that? It didn't even get weird or anything like that. It's just what? Because it would change it for me. Where like I wouldn't be chatting up this girl if I knew she had a boyfriend because the boyfriend would be upset with me. Like, and it's not even like explicit or sexual or anything. I just wouldn't want my like literally every day texting me 5 times or whatever. That's not okay. So I don't know. It's good that people clear that up right away. But I love that your story accurately describes how awkward it is too, because the other scenario is you're like, hey, I got a boyfriend or a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. I'm not single, and then they're like, I'm not attracted to you. I just wanted to have lunch. And you're like, okay, I'm going to go hang myself now. Goodbye.
Yeah, especially if they're gay, because then it's like, oh, yeah, because I'm gay.
You just think I want to have sex with you because I'm gay? Yeah, right?
Yeah, right? You're kind of like stereotyping a little bit. It's awkward, but you have to do it.
You got to do it. And it's so good, too. And the longer you wait, the worse it gets, by the way. Right? Like,
it doesn't help that, like, in general, I always want to be, like, friends with people. And I'm naturally, like, I don't know if it's, like, a cultural thing. Because, in India, like, guys hold hands. You compliment each other. Like, people are just closer there, maybe. But I'm the type of person that, like, you were there, Jeff. Like, I'll literally hop in a D&D call and be like, I was talking on my stream today, and Steven, you are a very exotic man. Like, you're very beautiful. And there's some people I'd be like, she wants to fuck. And I'm like, nah, dude.
Thirsty.
I just compliment people. But like, I meant it because I was talking about it on my stream and everybody in chat was like, bronze. I was like, no, like to me, like that's like what I imagine like Vikings to look like. He has like such beautiful hair and like this big beard. He's so like, it's such an exotic European man.
He's 5'2" and he weighs like 108 pounds. But yeah, it's.
He's not 5'2". No,
he's like 5'6" or 7 though. He's a small man.
Not. No, he's not. I've met him.
Where's my YouTube video where I'm him and Neil? Oh, I'll ask him.
Neil's really tall.
Do you think Neil's tall?
I don't know.
Eric, you're small then.
I've only seen Steven. I've hung out with Steven before, and Steven is a little tiny little railed alien boy, but he's fucking.
The face, like the.
How tall do you think he is?
He's probably like 5'11".
I imagined him as 6'2". You guys are ruining my headcanon, my fan art.
He's about as tall as I am. I think I'm a little bit taller. That's all. Like,
I don't know. It was a few years ago, so maybe went through a growth spurt, man.
Yeah.
No. Anyways, maybe he is. But I just remember he's a small man. He's a skinny guy.
I've always trusted that like my queer friends could pick out people who are queer. Like I trust that they know that I'm like I act straight. Like I have some pretty straight tells. I feel like, and so
that's not true. Everybody's a little gay,
right?
It's hard to tell because
sexuality is a spectrum, not a binary. Screw that shit.
Like sometimes you're telling me, Jeff, like you've never been like that's an attractive dude or that's a good looking guy.
I don't think that would make me gay, but no, I absolutely appreciate handsome guys.
It doesn't make you gay. 100% it doesn't. But like that vibe comes across. You can break somebody's gaydar.
So we're going to get into dangerous territory, but I'll just go ahead and I'll dive in because that's the show. I absolutely appreciate a very handsome man. And that's part of what I'm talking about too, is that I don't want to just be able to compliment my female friends. I really like the ability, and actually guys are pretty okay about this, to be honest with you, at least in my friendship circle. I think some like toxic masculine groups might be like, what? Did you say what? You fucking, and then they get kind of bad about it. No, my friends have always been able to be like, damn, dude, you hit the gym, you're looking swole, and like that kind of, that's good. But I know that I am like not even, and it's not even like I'm proud of this or whatever. It's just me as a person, just where I am on the spectrum, if you want to say it that way. The idea of being physically intimate with a man is like, couldn't do it in a million years.
No. I wasn't trying to say that at all. But I was trying to say like it'll break your like needle. Like I know one of my best friends is like super straight, but the way she talks to me, there's times where I'm like,
I think and this is where you guys can call me a bigot if you want. Right? I think it's a little bit easier for girls. So
and she'll like put her head on my shoulder and she'll be like, you're so beautiful. You're so pretty. And I'm just like, am I cheating right now? No.
And then you guys,
Do I need to like set some boundaries right now?
See, that's what Jeff's describing there as it's easier for girls is a function of the patriarchy and being in a toxic masculine society. That because we're not allowed, guys are not supposed to express their feelings and express their sense of gratitude and hug or hold hands as friends. So any
Well,
sort
that's
of
nature versus nurture, though, because I'm not even. I'm a person that can. I've expressed all kinds of. Like I don't feel restrained at all. I would not. I would tell you if I had
Right.
urges to hold a
But
man or something. I
we're
don't.
not we're not discussing individual experiences at that part. It's a collection of individual experiences that show this sort of thing that's going on, not just your individual experience.
Well, I mean, you're citing toxic masculinity and patriarchy. All I have as my immediate reference is my personal experience. Like I'm not going to say my personal experience is the rule. What I'm going to tell you is that as a person raised in the society that you're describing dictates that we are not allowed to express or feel that way. I'm telling you, I feel that I do have the liberation to express that if I did have it.
It's not that okay, so it's not like there's like some like patriarchy cops around being like they didn't do that thing. It's just our society suggests to behave with certain norms, right?
Yeah.
They reinforce them.
Super
right?
agree.
That's all.
That's the nature versus nurture. What I said is that I feel like I was certainly. So I guess if you want to place blame, I was raised in a society where that's looked down upon, and you're not supposed to do that. And maybe that's the condition for which I then have this feeling that I do. Where I feel that's a little bit of a tough argument is that if you basically, if we all throw it up to just like we were raised this way, then we're like, well, nothing is control. Like we have no opinions and feelings. We just have what we were told.
No, there's just a current, and you can go against the current, and it's probably better too. But the fact that you've examined it, right? It goes back to, it's like the first thing you said this stream is that you like examining having a friend be able to help you examine why you think a certain way, realizing like, oh man, that was just on autopilot for that. Like that. You're right. I just always thought that was the case. And some of those norms of why we always think these things are because they're socially reinforced.
Yeah. Let me tell you why I feel like this is problematic though. Because if you do it in reverse, I think people throw up gigantic red flags, get really upset. If someone's like, I'm homosexual, and then I argue, well, you're homosexual because you were raised by people that told you that's okay, and then you were also subjected to abuse or something like that, that's what made you homosexual. People get really upset because they're like, whoa, you're telling me that it's a side effect of my condition from which like I was raised and told what's okay, right?
Okay. I don't think I can speak on this.
All right. So So this is complicated because it's no. Ultimately, no. Yes, you'll get really, 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 really like you would probably lose that person as a friend if you would probably say something like that. To think that someone's sexuality is a choice that way.
So why is it okay to tell me that I'm uncomfortable with male contact because I was raised in a patriarchal society?
You might just be uncomfortable with male contact.
Yeah,
that was my point.
Yeah,
I can't read in your brain and prove what you think. All I can say is that is the default social view, and then if you don't question it, then that's fine. You can look like I don't really like
Eric. That's fine. Blood in the water a little bit here.
No, that's fine. I'm like, totally comfortable with this.
This is like hard for me because the concept of like the patriarchy as it pertains to America is so funny to me because I lived in a country where women don't have rights. Like, like I was supposed to have an arranged marriage. There's a reason I don't talk to my parents because I didn't. Like I've lived in a country where women get thrown acid on, disowned, and killed if they don't act a certain way. So to me, like some of the concepts that, I see on social media and stuff in America, like I'm going to say right now, I feel like I'm very privileged and very lucky because I live in a country where I can live my truth. I am very proud to be American. So like, it's hard for me when people are like, well, you've internalized your oppression. And I'm like, suck my dick. I'm not fucking oppressed. Like, like, but this is going to have to be a whole conversation for another fucking day because try calling me marginalized sometime and see where that fucking gets you. I don't prescribe to any of those like labels and things. I don't have a card to play and I don't blame a lot of my hardship, but I'll also acknowledge that it's because my culture held me down more than like white supremacy ever did. So I have a very different view of it coming into it. And I will acknowledge that my traditional cultural roots are what held me back and oppressed me more than any white person ever did. So I have a different point of view of that.
Yeah.
So this conversation in general is like a huge disconnect for me. So it's hard for me to like And I know the YouTube comments are going to be garbage, and I know that the chat's going to be garbage, so I don't even want to look at it.
No, they're doing pretty good. That's what I like about this subject is that you are a woman of color. He is. He identifies differently. I identify differently. We're all talking about it. And I actually love that.
So it's hard for me to speak about like toxic masculinity and patriarchy and stuff like that because I just don't have I don't have the right context, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm quiet, that's why.
All I'm saying is that there is a general social like trend, a current that goes a certain way that reinforces certain things. If you don't ever stop and think, you're like, why am I doing this? And you're like, oh yeah, no, that's because it feels right for me. Then that's fine. But as long as you're doing the sort of questioning that sort of internal dialogue with yourself, that self-interrogation of, I'm pretty sure I don't like guys or.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably make out with a guy, but I don't think I would like have sex with them. And you're like, okay, and that's all. Like,
so you and I are identifying the same thing, and just to explain my perspective a little bit further. I actually agree 1,000% with you, and I think one of the interesting conversations that it'll be very difficult to facilitate a fair talk on, but it's something you're starting to see boil up, is very often white males in particular are told. You are just a representation of the masses, like your feelings, what you think. It's just something that was passed on to you by the countless faceless horde of white men before you. Something to that effect. I'm obviously using very flowery language because I'm really cool like that. But generally speaking, that doesn't bother me that much at all because I'm very secure in how I feel and what I think. And I'm an introspective person that challenges a lot of everything that I feel and experience, I guess. But there's a lot of people that get told this and are maybe a little bit less, they have less agency to defend themselves, or they feel oppressed by the idea that because they're a white male, they're inherently guilty of a lot of things, and then they don't really have a culture or opinion or feeling on stuff. They're just the product of patriarchy or the privilege of the masses from where they're born, and they can't help that. And then, of course, there's bad representation of those people who are like, damn right, I'm white, and I own 17 guns, and I fucking hate everybody. And it's like, well, that's probably something where hopefully later in life they come to a place where they evaluate that. But the interesting thing about this is I 100% identify and believe that there is patriarchy, of course. And I do believe there's tremendous amounts of privilege. And I do think you should be self-reflective of that, and you should be conscientious of it to the best of your ability. There are people absolutely with less rights and are treated worse and given less opportunities, and you need to be conscientious of that. But because that is the case, that doesn't mean that you are to be put down and told that you don't have, the ability to have an opinion or a perspective. Like, you can be aware of your privilege, try to expand that privilege to other people, and then still be able to talk about and have feelings that are your own. And that's why, and I don't think you fully did this, but it did kind of come across this way when you were like, well, no, you're not gay because you were raised in a patriarchy, or you don't feel like you could touch a man because you're in a patriarchy. Then my agency starts to get challenged where I'm like, no. I'm not interested in a man because for me personally, in my sexuality, in my journey, that's just not what interests me at all. Yeah. And then when you challenge that and flip it on its head, and this is something that bothers me, but again, I understand why it's not okay, is just because there's people that literally would translate this argument into like eugenics. They're like, well, gay people, it's a condition, so therefore we can teach it out of them. Or if we get them to enough camps, hopefully there'll be no more of the gays. And it's like, whoa, let's keep you out of anything, political. You're scary. And that's, so that like, hypocrisy is almost too strong of a word, but when you flip it on its head and it's used the other way against a group that is subjugated and oppressed, and that's why it's not okay to do that, it becomes complicated for me as a person, because I get lumped in with a group of people that use it as a weapon, but I'm not using it as a weapon. I'm using it as like a self-identifiable, this is where I come from kind of thing. Right.
Well, I'm sorry to make you feel, I see what I did to you. And
no apology necessary. I like explaining it out, because this, by the way, if we ever want to do an episode, is the prickliest of territories, right? Like,
oh my God, you want to get a white privilege?
White males talking about how they are privileged, but also have a culture. Basically, I become the villain.
Right.
Easily. So
I would love to talk about that.
It's a good one.
I would not.
Right. If there's one thing, if there's one thing that I would like to do,
Bronze can take the episode off. No,
I already, because like the thing is, I say things like, you've already noticed, I say things like very like off the cuff or like chill, like everybody's a little gay. And then somebody will take that and be like, how dare you? And I'm like, oh, come on. It's a Tropic Thunder reference. Like, like I'm very like off the cuff, and I just like say what I feel sometimes. And and it's like, I'm not saying, oh, well, people need to quit being sensitive. No, I forget the impact of words. And I think like I will insert something I think is funny or a reference, probably somewhere where I shouldn't. And I deliver it so fucking like seriously that people are like, oh, because I've said it on my stream, like, we should have never given women the right to vote. And people are like, oh,
it's meant to be
like,
so ridiculous that it obviously, yeah, I do that all the time. I say things that are supposed to be so stupid that you can't believe it. And the people are like, I can't believe he thinks that. And I'm like, come on.
All women are whores.
This is why I try to not make those jokes too much around, like, especially around people. And
I don't care.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, I mean, I would be here for a chat about platform responsibility and your chat and stuff like that too.
And you like me still?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I don't mind these jokes in general, but yeah, so many people take these things literally, and then they become cover for real shitty people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're like, I don't know why you're upset. I'm just making the same jokes as you. And then meanwhile, go post on like 4chan or whatever. Right, like with like Nazi symbols or whatever.
That's
you know what
fair.
I mean? Like it becomes just, you know, it's you hide hate in jokes, and I'm like, it depends on the person. It's so contextualized.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like I would never say to anyone to like never make those kinds of jokes, but it's just understand other people can misconstrue those things, or that you're, even though like the most ridiculous things, and it can hurt people. And
that's why, to try and balance myself out, I think one of my superpowers is I'm very quick to apologize. Like if someone's like, the way you said that really hurt me. I mean, unless they're being like silly, ridiculous, then sometimes I'm kind of a dick anyways. But like, especially, and this bounce back to our friendship talk all the time, because that's my humor sometimes, right? Is I'll say absolutely ridiculous, stupid thing, but it's supposed to be that it's so ridiculous that you can't take it serious. But sometimes people are like, yo, you're kind of making me uncomfortable with that. It's my job in that situation, I feel, as a person that is saying something ridiculous, to be like, yo, I'm sorry. I did. Okay. I'll dial it back. And that's why, if you guys will follow me down this path, we went deep down the rabbit hole, by the way, and I love it. Maybe it's got to be a future episode.
It's Eric's fault.
Yeah, my bad.
Actually, it's Patriarchy's fault. But, it's, well, what I was going to say is like, it's, God, now I lost it. Damn it. It was something along the lines of, for me as a person, I'm going to step over boundaries in my friendships, not like necessarily on purpose or because I think I'm just that cool, but it just does happen because of how I am. And it's so important for me and my friends that they give me the benefit of the doubt to talk to me. I've had that a few times. Like the story of Bronze would scare me if it weren't for the fact that I would say even just in the last couple of years, I try to do a really good job communicating to my friends like, yo, you talk to me, tell me. Because throughout my life, I've had so many friends where like I'm pissing them off, or there's like, I've been accused of all kinds of things where like I need to be the center of attention, I dominate, I can't take no for an answer, I'm a bully. Like these are all the things that throughout my life I've been called. And it's not even that they're wrong. It's just contextual. Like maybe at that night, for whatever reason, I had too much fun juice, and I was just like, I was dominating the conversation. And some people who are, you know, less secure with jumping in socially, they felt pushed out, and they're like, God damn, that Jeff guy is kind of a pain in the ass. Like, I don't want to hang out with him ever again. But then the next night I'm pretty chill, or I'm aware that someone's getting kind of quiet and they're not really feeling comfortable. And so I'll try to include them. And then, you know, in the last few years, I think in my maturity, I'm more aware of how I am socially. So I try to either dial it back or include people or notice when someone's uncomfortable. So I'm trying to be more conscientious. But again, if you go back 5 years, there's just all these, like, there could be engagements where someone's like, Jeff said a joke about race and I'm so uncomfortable, so I'm just never going to talk to him again. But if they come up to me and they're like, yo, man, I don't like this joke about that thing, 9 times out of 10, I'd be like, okay, yeah, sorry, I don't need to joke about that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And
then it's okay. And that's why in this discussion of friendship, I think it's so important to give that chance, because it's kind of funny in the context of, like, we just said sometimes you don't need friends, right? So if it's Jeff characters doing that every night and you have talked to him and he still fucking just doesn't care, maybe you don't need that guy around and you don't hang out with him as much.
Absolutely. Like conversation, like relationships with the people, just like your sexuality, can change over time entirely. And so sometimes having to like renegotiate those boundaries and stuff like that is kind of happens, right? Not saying you should always be prodding everyone's boundaries every single moment of every single time.
Right.
But sometimes when you're talking to some people and you're like, you know what, you had a little bit too much to drink or something, not to excuse it, but like if you make like a kind of an insensitive joke and like people look at you that way, it's like, you know what, like just own it. And they're like, you know what, I did make it. I was pretty insensitive. My bad. I'm really sorry about that. Don't really know where that came from. I'm sorry.
Yep.
And that's all. Just apologize and that's it, right? It wasn't kind of, you just thought that it's those non-spoken cues, just socially, like, oh, I thought this was where this was going.
Yep.
I'm really like, you're right, I've totally fucked up. Now if you're doing that, like, I don't want to get into the whole like dating situation respect of like those boundaries. That's a different conversation. I'm just talking about friends. No.
Every show's about sex. That's what this is going to become. That's what we're going to boil it down to.
I mean, you can't talk about friendships without it coming up, though, right?
Oh yeah. James Spader. I always blank on his name.
Staunch opinion that like the friend zone doesn't exist, and that if you think you're in the friend zone, what you really are is not honest with your friend about the fact that you want to date them, and it's okay to not. I've had this happen, and I don't understand why people don't think it's okay. I've broken up with somebody, and when they're like, "I hope we can still be friends," said no.
Yeah.
Just do that. Oh, yeah. I want to go out with you. Oh, I'm not single. Oh, okay. Well, I hope we could still be friends, though. Oh, no. It's okay to say you're not there yet. It doesn't make you shitty. That's better than lingering in the fucking blind spot like a fucking moron. Being like, oh, I'm in the friend zone. Because what you're doing is you're creating a nonverbal contract between yourself and this person that when they are single, you're going to be the next person that they date. When in reality, she's probably just trying to save your feelings, and she didn't agree to that nonverbal contract, and now you're just a fucking cuck. And you're gonna watch her bang all these other dudes. It's gonna eat away at you, and you know why you have no one to blame except yourself because you're a goddamn idiot.
Yep. And you weren't taught to communicate your feelings and how you thought to someone else.
Be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
It's okay if it makes you an asshole because it makes you less of an asshole than the dude who sits in the friend zone. Because you ain't a friend, bitch. You're on a fucking waiting list. Be honest about that shit.
But the funny thing about this too is I often find the friend zone is used super aggressively, but it's like sometimes you can actually just be a friend. But what I like about this is that you have to communicate that, right? Like it doesn't start with I'd like to date you and hopefully sleep with you, and then they're like no. They're like, well, can I just be your friend anyways? That's a tough one. That's a tough. I don't know. There's gonna be a guy in the chat like I can do that, and I'm like I'm 33 years old. I've never met a dude in particular who's like, I'm attracted to you. I want to be with you. And they're like, no. And they're like, can I at least drive you to the guy's house before they plow? Is that okay? Can I be like,
saying.
no.
Just be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very weird for me in those types of ways because I'm someone who most of my friends right now in this point in my life are of the other sex. Like it just turned out that way. It just turns out that like I don't know. There's a lot of fucking really interesting, cool women in Seattle. I mean, thankfully, a lot of them were through Suzanne's friends, but just through the gaming scene, especially here in Seattle.
Are you one of those boys? I'm just not friends with other boys. They're so
boys are gross.
No, it's I've had a hard time actually.
I agree with him. Seattle guys are douchebags, though. To be honest.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yes, I'm from Seattle, of course.
No, it's.
Well, that explains a lot. Okay,
Whoa!
carry on, Eric.
Yeah. No, it just turns out that way. That a lot of my guy friends and stuff like that are just they're kind of more of my newer set of friends. I've had a couple like old mainstays, but for the most part, it's more like my newer friends are guys. But my like of all my my binders full of friends, it's mostly women. Yeah. It just turns out that way. And to go back to that point, it's like, do I want to date them? Honestly, no. But I can to be completely frank, this came from just interrogating kind of my own sexuality. It's like, is there any friend that I wouldn't like kiss if it came that way? It's like I don't really know. But like, it doesn't mean I would ever do anything like that. But just like that's just sort of my sexuality, friendship. Yeah, I don't know. It's something that I've interrogated with myself. Being like, I'm not sure what you call that. Like, it's not like you're attracted to intimacy. I don't know. Like, it's just being close to your friends. Like, I could see. I don't know. Maybe it's, but once again, maybe it's because in a patriarchal society, I have been repressing physical emotions to the people I care about, unless like it's explicitly like your person you're dating.
Here's the 100%.
I don't know. It's hard.
Here's my perspective, and this is like you normally don't talk this frankly, but I think on the Deadpan Diaries you do. I have a lot of my buddies have beautiful wives and girlfriends. I have friends that are girls that are beautiful, and there is no attempt at dating or whatever there. And as a male, I would be lying to you if I told you that my brain doesn't immediately go like, wow, she's really hot, she's attractive or whatever. But I actually view myself as a really honorable, loyal, and I like friendship and being a good person is higher than just literally fucking everything in my path. So I don't want to, like, I'm very comfortable saying my buddy's wife is fucking smoking. And I am not even the least bit interested in trying to be predatory about it, because that would be the kind of betrayal that would be the undoing of my existence. I don't like the image of that at all.
It would destroy. Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't be able to sleep at night, and I also am old enough to tell you there's such a thing as like not enjoying sex. Like you can hook up with somebody and be like, I didn't enjoy that because I didn't feel a connection, and that was kind of weird and bad. And I don't know. There's gonna be somebody in the chat make a joke like, no, it's like pepperoni pizza, everything's great. Like no, you want to be with someone you want to be with. Yeah, I guess for some people cheating's a turn on. For me, it's just absolutely not, for very obvious reasons. But like, it's funny whenever, for me personally, from my perspective, I'm not speaking on behalf of all of mankind, but like, whenever there's people who are like, oh yeah, no, I'm not attracted to her at all. I'm like, maybe that's true, but for me as a guy, I'm like, no, I'm attracted to just about every beautiful woman I'm around, but the circumstances like, nope, they're not interested in me. So friendship's really fun, and that's cool, and that's where I'm going to go. I'm not waiting in the wings. I'm not like opportunistic. Or if they're with somebody else, the idea of breaking that up is so abhorrent to me that it's unattractive beyond the physical attraction. So that's what kind of...
It goes... Yes, and it goes back to like the thing I think if there's one thing about the Deadpan Diaries and you, Jeff, it's going back to being comfortable being alone and being comfortable with yourself. Almost like you're in a relationship with yourself first. Being like, that's fine. I'm cool with me. Mm-hmm. And if this, and like I wouldn't risk my relationship with myself.
Yep.
To like do something like that.
I love that. It's a good way to word it.
Yeah, and then you pride yourself enough that none of those things are kind of worth it. Or like, in fact, it would be the exact opposite. Like you won't even consider it. It's just absolutely boring. Man.
And I do think it's some of the
this conversation is fascinating to me because I'm on like I'm very much a minority in this. Like I don't find people that I am not close with attractive. I can think they're beautiful. I can think they're handsome, but I don't find them attractive. And the idea of casual sex makes me want to throw up in my mouth. It really does. Like it makes me sick. Like one night stands, stuff like that is not me.
I'm okay with that. I don't think that makes you wrong.
No.
A lot of people are like, oh, it's like, it's considered like liberating. To me, I'm like, oh, like just the idea of it. And I have friends that are, like one of my best friends in the world, love her to pieces. She'll like tell me about some random dude she hooked up with, and I'll just be like, Savina, you can't do this to me. And she's like, well, I'm like, it's like really unpalatable for me, man. Like you can't.
Oh wow, good word.
I love you. You're my sister. You can tell me about everything, but she's like, oh, you're such a square. And I'm like, nah, girl, you gotta. The concept that you like met him and then banged him within like a day. I'm just like, ooh, don't.
This is my issue and stuff. I have the same feeling about my friends who are poly, right, or in open relationships. I'm like, how do you manage? Like, I can barely manage one close relationship without like I have to be on my phone all of the time. Like, I don't know how are you balancing these relationships if like that's for me it's like a time management and like attention of your life part. Like that's like maintaining. That's like another full-time job. Almost. I mean, obviously, like it's more pleasurable than a job because it's someone you want to be around with. But like balancing your time and stuff like that just seems so. It's so. That's what gets me. I just. Man.
Some of the chat asked a good question as far as it furthering being too honest for the benefit of you guys to hear this and hopefully expand your lives. But Nerd Cheese asking, would you still say that? Would that same idea apply to people you deem ugly? What's funny is as you get older, you find other things attractive. Like
that's true.
When I'm young, like 21-year-old Jeff, it's just body. I don't, whatever. Hormones everywhere. But as you get older, I find talent. I find like mastery of self really attractive. I find So there's just all kinds of things. So when you use the word ugly, I'm taking that as you mean physical appearance. If you mean they're an ugly person, this conversation doesn't even happen, because I'm a collector of great people, and I actively try to avoid ugly people. They're like, wow, yesterday I pushed over a Jewish lady. I'm like, no, I don't have that friend.
I feel that way about stupid people.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I find I don't care, and I've gotten into arguments with so many people about. They're like, "What if it looks like this? What if he looks like Cillian Murphy? What if she looks like Catherine Zeta-Jones?" I'm like, I don't care if the bitch is dumb. I can't get it up, man. Or the lady equivalent of that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because she says something stupid or he says something stupid. Like, I'm just like, you cute, but you stupid though, and that just ruined it.
It's.
But to answer your question, Nurchi, no, attraction is actually super important to me, just as a person, and I'm not going to pass that off on everyone. Doesn't have to be that way. For me, when you're with the right person and you're really excited about multiple aspects of them, and they got your back and you got theirs, that is in my opinion, one of the best situations you can be in, and that's worth pursuing. And the advantage that I'm trying to the silver lining for me is now a single man is I want to find someone that I'm really excited about, and I make them a better person, and they make me a better person. I don't want to settle. I want to be attracted and all that stuff moving forward. So it's getting a little bit off topic, because you're asking if I identify friends, and if they're ugly, I'm doing that thing that I did or whatever. But that's why I try to give the full breadth answer, which is I have friends that are not necessarily swimsuit models or power building muscle men, but I find them extremely attractive because they're really fucking witty and smart, or they're funny, or they're cool. I've had some of my guy friends are some of the suavest motherfuckers, and they're just not that handsome. But it's also, it works too. They they just do well. People are like, I just gave him $100. I don't know why. It's just a good guy. It's like, whatever. He's like, oh, thanks, man. That's really cool.
Do you get face blind? I get that with if I remember when I was younger, one of my friends was like, oh, what about so-and-so? Is he cute? Or I was talking about somebody, and they're like, one of my cousins or something, they're like, is he cute? And I was like, I don't know. And they're like, what? No, just tell me, is he cute? And I'm like, I just, because I know I'm biased, because I'm like, oh yeah, you should date my friend. They're super cute. And then you could tell they're disappointed. And I'm like, I think maybe I get face blind once I'm friends with somebody, or I'm really close with someone, because of the qualities you mentioned, where I start to see other things about them that I think are really valuable.
Don't answer, Eric. Oh. Don't answer yet. Let me make myself an asshole, and then I'm going to see if you...
Okay.
I think men and women are very different, typically. Obviously, it's 2019. We cannot speak in absolutes. I think a guy identifies attraction inside of about 2 seconds with absolutely everybody that they see, physically. And this is where Eric disagrees, and then I look like the asshole, but that's okay. I'll represent the macho people. Oh, no. I don't get face blind at all. The first time I see any girl or guy, I'm like, boop, attractive. You're good looking.
Yeah.
Then they say something like, I hate Jews. I'm like, not attractive.
Gone.
Yeah. But in guys, I don't know. Again, people can say I'm an asshole, where this is the too honest show. Maybe this is the undoing of me, but guys scan rooms and rate. They just, everything's identified almost immediately. Boop, I see everything.
Yeah.
I'm never face blind.
Man. I see. I think it was sort of because of my more religious upbringing, where I thought that the people I wanted to date had to be marriage material. It really screwed me over. It really screwed me up for a while there. I could only date people I want, who thought nope, they have to marry them, kind of thing. These have to be, are they the whole package kind of thing. I really missed out on the idea of what if I just dated to find out who someone is, rather than try to make these ideas in my head.
But Eric, I'm with you on that. And I think maybe that's why I hate stupid people, is I think do I want to have kids with this dumb motherfucker? No. Yeah. My kids are going to be fucking stupid.
You know what? I'm rushing out there to be as honest as I can, so someone can hate me, and they will in the YouTube comments. But Bronze is 6 paces ahead of me with her honesty, and I really appreciate that.
I'm just used to people hating me, so I'm okay with it,
That's why I hate stupid people.
One of my cousins got married, and his wife would just do the dumbest stuff.
Yeah.
And I would always empathize with him, because I'd always just be like, I don't know how you run a household with her. You can't trust her to do anything, because he couldn't.
Yeah.
He couldn't trust her to do anything. He had to do everything. And I was just like, and that was an arranged marriage, so he had no say in that, right? And I was just like, I'm so sorry. Like, she's cute, but
Yeah.
I'm shocked that once she asked me, like, if the hot water in the house was broken, because I was staying over there when I first moved to Washington State. And I was like, no. And I had to go in the bathroom and show her how to use the nozzle to get the hot water going in her own house.
That's a tough one.
That's yeah, I'm out. Yeah, I'm out.
And I was like, girl, what are you doing? And she's like, well, the H is on this side. And I was like, yeah, because when whoever installed the faucet, they did it backwards. Didn't you think to twist it to the other side
Yeah,
when the
just
water
experiment.
kept getting colder? And I remember looking at her and being like,
oh no.
I really hope my nephews turn out okay, because this is
No, Tumescent Pie. That's something I've done my entire life, with or without somebody. That was the entire thing we're talking about. Single or not, boop. I check attraction across the board. But then you defer back to what I said earlier, which is that doesn't mean that I'm going to date everybody in here. I'm going to try to have sex with everybody. It's not like that either. It's just that's just a natural male thing for me, as far as I'm concerned.
No, I think even when it comes to making friends, though, like, attraction is very similar to how you make friends. There's superficial qualities that you're drawn to at the start, and then, but that's like the quick little fertilizer, right? Like, you don't know if you're putting down roots there or not until you figure out what's going on, right? You're like, oh, that's actually a weed. I'm out. You know, like, you don't know until you start hanging out with them some more and getting their personality. See if your humor is in alignment. All those types of things, right? See if they're available to hang out when you are. If you're willing to put in the time to hang out with somebody and they're willing to put in the time. All those types of things, they all come into play. All because, like, yeah, we're all attracted to superficial things at the start because that's kind of all we have to go off of, right? Whether it's physical looks, whether it's like interests. Like, you know, most of my friends play role-playing games a lot. You know, it's just because we understand the magic of them and how much fun it is and how great it is to meet people through them and how empowering they are. So it's like, I like people who do that, but also several of my friends don't, or just started playing role-playing games.
Yeah.
And like, only because it's something that they like me so much that they're interested in knowing why I like them so much. So, like, I don't know. It's a big thing for that stuff. Yeah. Superficial. I don't know. Someone talking about politics in chat about tracking someone because of politics. Yeah. For me, it's also just values behind them.
Yeah.
Like, why you have in politics is the value, but you also don't know that until you.
You don't agree?
Because I've changed so much over the years, you know? Like, I look at myself and how I've changed and how my values have changed and how my politics have changed over the years. And I couldn't fathom basing a relationship. I get friendship, sure. Relationship, if that's the only thing we have in common, I can't put faith that that's not going to change. Because I know that mine has shifted a lot just in the past 8 years. So
your political stance, you mean, or like how you feel about it?
Yeah, and my values in general.
So you're saying, you can, to counter Eric's point, you're saying it's so important to you that if someone has differing politics, you find that unattractive or something?
No. I'm saying, like, I couldn't use that as common ground for the basis of any relationship because I don't have faith that it wouldn't change, if that makes sense. Like,
right.
Yeah.
It's like being a math teacher and grading somebody not on the final answer of their political spectrum, but the reasons how they get to that answer, right? It's like, that's the thing that you really get all those points for, that you're super obsessed with. And you learn, you can pick that up pretty quickly finding somebody, not just necessarily what they say, but how they say it and how well they are. This goes to not necessarily like debating them or anything like that. I'm not asking you to like come up with like the reasons for the universe, you know, from like a non-metaphysical perspective or anything like that. I'm just asking simply like, oh, I can trace back why you value that thing, right? Like, based on what you said. And like, that value statement is what's important to me. Like, when it comes off like, oh, no, you truly do care about people. You know, it's like, you're not, here's the most, I hate talking in such an ephemeral way. A classic example would be something like about abortion, right? And being like, you know, something about like, you know, like all life is sacred. And it's like, cool, well, what happens after they're born and someone's in a really shitty situation? And they're like
I used to
like,
be
oh,
pro-life.
okay.
And I think that's why maybe that's why that concept makes me uncomfortable. The concept that somebody would like not be my friend or not like me because I'm pro-life, but I'm no longer pro-life. That was me when I was in college.
You know what though?
I changed my stance on it. So I think like maybe that's why the concept of like placing that much value in that makes me uncomfortable.
Well, let me suggest this. Like, what if
people hated me because of that? Makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah. What if the big brain answer is for Bronze, that is her truth, and for Eric, that's his truth, and that's okay. Like for Eric, he's closer to me in the sense that it is okay to be friends with people of different political beliefs, and to as long as there's like as long as you're not hurting each other over that, it's something, then that works for you. But for Bronze, she's been very close to some of these subjects in her life journey, and she finds that it doesn't work out for her. I think it's how you handle it for me is the important part. If Bronze is like, I'm sorry, you Protestant? I hate Protestants because they're all child molesters and you're going to be gone now. It's like, well, that's probably not the best way to handle that. It seems really ignorant and bad. But if she's like, I find that the subject of pro-life or abortion or arranged marriages and Indian caste politics are really near and dear to me, who would anybody be to say, no, you need to challenge that all the time. You need to be around people with the opposite belief and have a super tough time with that.
Yeah, or come to the conclusion that won't change.
Not that Eric was saying that, by the way, but just like something in the middle. Yeah.
Because things like that change. Like I've definitely changed my opinion on stuff like that. Big time. Part of it was like being young and naive,
Right? Yeah.
There's like a growth process there.
God. Naivety is like the least attractive quality to me.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It is. And let me tell you.
But everybody's there.
Yeah. Everybody. Yeah. Of course. Because it's impossible to be exposed to everything all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so being able to like stop the you're against abortion, like being able to like, reverse real quick like that and be like, oh wow, that's like where's that come from? Or like you probably know them because they're wearing like a cross, or like you just met them out of like their church or whatever. They're a religious person. You're like, okay, is this because of your religion and that kind of stuff? And you're like, yeah. It's like, okay. Then like, but then you also find out because you could riff on somebody like that real bad and like try to punch out, and then you find out they like volunteer all their time like taking care of someone on an orphanage and stuff like that too. Like they're like committed to the idea that life is sacred. They're committed to the idea of helping people who are in unfortunate circumstances, or helping people with adoption. And they're like committed. They walk the walk kind of thing for that, right? And it's like, okay, yeah, no, I totally get that, and it wouldn't be a deal breaker to me for friends or anything like that just from having a different point of view. But yeah, like. Oh yeah, cutting off people just from like a simple like yes no answer. No, it's all about the show your work kind of situation.
How you do it.
Yeah,
and that's not. Unfortunately, I apologize. I'm like expanding this topic tremendously, but one of the best things I've ever learned. I don't even know who to fully attribute this to. I think it might have been my grandfather, but it's probably a combination of a bunch of people who raised me up. But you should go to your grave being certain of almost nothing. You should always challenge your thoughts. You should always be open to hearing new things. You are going to learn. You should learn for the rest of your life. You should not be like, I know this to be the truth, because almost always, to a certain degree, almost always you're going to find, like, again, at one point I was very ignorant. I was like, some people in my early life kind of taught me and I don't know, influenced me into believing like homosexuality was, weird and led to some bad stuff. And then I had my debate coach in college was homosexual. A couple of my friends in college were homosexual, and learning and being around them was what gave me a completely different life perspective and experience that then kind of taught me like, shit, man, like I didn't know. I didn't have things figured out. And it's kind of a shame that it happened that late in my life. But the point that I'm trying to make is I experienced it. I challenged it. And because I was raised in a way where I'm okay with challenging concepts and I'm okay with learning, I felt enlightened and I felt better after that.
I had a similar journey, and I was very lucky to be friends with people that didn't see eye to eye with me, but they were willing to have the conversation with me. And I remember being like, well, you should be responsible, blah, 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 blah. That's why I would never have an abortion. And one of my friends reached out, grabbed my hand. She's like, okay, then don't have one. And I was like, does that mean other people shouldn't have one? And then I was like, just because I would never have one, does that give me the right to enforce my morality on other people? And for me, being like such a freedom, I was like, oh my God, you're absolutely correct.
Right? Yeah.
So even though I find the concept deplorable, I'm being honest, sorry. Yeah. And I would never do that. And I would probably I could sit here and make all the 400 reasons why I wouldn't. To me, my rationalization of what got me over it was, but if somebody else doesn't find, because for me, it became like a morality thing of like, okay, well, just because I don't like it doesn't mean that, other people can no longer do this. It's like an infringement on rights. And that for me was like the big like flip switch where I was like, okay, yeah, no, fuck yeah. But I like being around people who have opposing viewpoints because I like grew from that conversation, and my mind didn't change on like my rationalization of it so much as it changed on like I connected it to another thing where I was like,
yeah, but that's it. Like that's the best type of friends and everything that can get you to those points, right? Help you see those connections. Yeah. Oh, very much so. I want to ask another question because there's so much to talk about with friends.
Yeah.
How do you all meet friends online? Like you guys stream all the freaking time. How do you make friends?
And
you're in your own channels.
If I may add to this to complicate it further, but that's just what we do. What is a friend that you meet online too, right? Like, because there's not like a verbal contract or there's not a moment of declaration, right? You just kind of call each other friends, or you are. Like, I've never had the pleasure of meeting Bronze in person. I call her a friend. But I would totally understand.
Too.
Well,
Good.
I'm just saying, I would totally understand though if you were like, no, I mean, for me, friends are people that I hang out with. Fair enough. I think that's the complicated part, right? I'm okay with calling a lot of people friends, and then there's other people who are like, no, that's a title that I bestow upon people, and they've been to my wedding. It's like, oh shit. Fair. But Eric asked, how do you meet people? Bronze, how do you meet people?
See, this is hard for me. Because I'm first of all, I'm bad at it. And second of all, I have a hard time defining it as well. Because to me, there's like people that I would actually be myself around that I consider close, that I would probably talk to. Like if I was having a rough day or an existential crisis, I'd probably talk to you about it, Jeff. And I think that makes us friends. That's like that's my standard for that. I have issues where other people, I want to feel that way about them, but I don't know if they feel that way about me. So it's hard for me to determine whether we are friends or not. Like I don't have a hard time making acquaintances. I think I have a hard time gauging whether or not this is a real friendship. Right. And especially because like now that we're on the topic of like this was like the topic of the first Deadpan Diaries, right? Like toxic positivity. How much online, especially in our line of work, do you have people be like, oh my God, we had Bronze on this week. She's my favorite. Like, she's like my best friend. And you're like, we've hung out twice. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
And so when somebody in this industry does say like, oh, well, I like Bronze, she's my friend, they might not mean it the way you think they do. Because they might just be like, well, coworkers, things are pleasant, da 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 da. And I'm over here like, it makes it even more complicated, honestly, on figuring out whether or not this motherfucker's your friend or not. It makes it even harder because you're just like, so dude, that's my non-answer answer.
The disposability of people that you meet online changes this so tremendously, right? Like, because I'm like I said, I'm open, so I'm pretty easygoing. Like, if I have a lot of people that are, I guess, acquaintances. I call them friends, but I'm not like hung up on it. If they needed my help, I'd be there for them. There's a lot of people, and I'm not saying this to like, woe is me, but there's a lot of people that I learned over time. They're not there for me. And it was a business transaction. I'm on their show. I've stayed at their house. We are friendly. We go out to movies. We go out to dinner. That's nice. But when I'm not useful to them anymore or they move on, they don't talk to me ever again. So was that a friendship? I don't think so. I think that was more of a like convenience and we were okay with each other. But it doesn't even have to be a hostile thing. And I'm not trying to demonize these people, but it happens a lot online and a lot less in person is my experience, right? Like if you were on the same sports team, you fucking play, you have a hobby together, you guys see each other, it's more of an in-person thing. The idea of like, I'm never talking to that person again. Well, that was really, Jesus, right in the camera. The idea of like, I'll never talk to that person again and move on. It does happen, of course, but I find it to happen a lot less when you have those kind of bonds, whereas online friendships, it happens all the time. I've got people that I've done shows with, I've worked with, and like I said, I've literally stayed at their house or I've, gone out for meals and movies. They just don't talk to me ever again. And it's not that we have this fight and there's a reason why they don't like me. It's just because it's like, it's not convenient or it's just easy to move on, I guess, because of online connections.
There's a special like saying that I think of when this happens a lot as well. Like when people kind of just not necessarily stop being friends. It's just that there's a sort of thing is said. It's like, you're just not really a priority to me right now. It's not like I don't care about you. It's just that you're not a priority.
Right.
And you have to be cool with that. You have to be completely cool with that. And it happens in your life all the time. And like, yeah, I'm not a priority. I don't make this one friend a high priority in my life, and I don't make this, and someone doesn't make it to me, I don't feel bad about it.
It's also a pretty adult thing, right? Because when you're friends, you like, or when you're younger, I think you work really hard, and there's also like school and stuff that connects your friendship group. But when you're older, sometimes I have friends that I haven't talked to in like 2 years. And it's not because I'm actively trying to avoid them. It's just because they are married. They have 4 kids now. I'm over in California. They're in Washington. It's hard.
There's a quote that I forgot I heard, but it was so true about my life living in rural Maryland, that the closest thing I had in common with the friends on my street was just geography. I was just close to them. That's it.
Yeah.
Like we had none of the same interests. Like it's just, they were technically my friends growing up, but that's only because we were stuck together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Braun's non-answer, though. It is hard. Meeting people online. I would say for me, it's a lot of the kind of same stuff that you can read in a lot of books where, like, if you're working together, that's where you meet a lot of friends and relationships and stuff like that. Online, it's a lot of, like, we gamed together, we rated together, we're on the same forums together. And what I like about it is if you find yourself bonding with someone, this whole episode could be boiled down to like communication. Like I think that's one of the big. Actually, every episode, yeah, exactly. It just kind of comes down to like, I like talking to this person, hanging out with them. So I'm going to say, hey man, I want you to know I really enjoy you, and is it cool if we share each other's Discord? And can I, if you need something, let me know. I want to help you out. Putting that out there and like doing that allows you to help kind of understand where the friendship's at too. Because maybe for that person, they're like, well, I've never met you, you're weird. And then you're like, oh, okay, no friendship here, I guess. And you can just kind of move on. But if you don't define that, kind of like Bronze was talking about earlier, she was talking about in the relationship way and sexual tension between like people. But the same is true in friendship, right? Like if you assume you're friends with somebody and they kind of don't, you're running a little bit of a risk. Like I assumed I was friends with Bronze. She assumed she was friends with me. It worked out. But maybe she's like, I think Jeff's a friend. I'm like, no, not at all, Bronze. You're an idiot. And they like just move on. But Bronze would be like, or
I'm not doing this show anymore. Then I'm leaving.
I should have used the example in reverse. It's too, yeah.
I'll come back when you pay me a salary. I did this out of friendship.
It's a risk, is what I'm saying. So the higher, the bigger form of this is to like, and you don't need to be super contractual about it. It's sometimes just as easy as leaning out and giving some of your love, right? Like I was saying earlier, like I assumed I wasn't friends with these people because of the circumstances of my life. They reached out, and the generosity and the honesty of what they did touched me in such a way that I'm motivated now to be that person for other people. And that's what the opportunity provides, online or off, just being that kind of person that's willing to take the risk and be like, I like you a lot. I want to hang out. Is that cool?
Yeah.
It can do some good stuff.
I mean, to echo that, Jeff and I weren't necessarily the closest of people in the world, and Jeff has only recently, and I've been kind of hanging out more in his chats and stuff like that while I work, and it's just a thing that I had no idea that he wanted to be closer to me and be my friends, and then same with Bronze, and it's like, holy crap, I had no idea, and
it's
the
always
fact
pleasant
that
when that happens.
Yeah, it's super super nice. So you don't know what people.
Just kidding.
want.
Jokes on you, weirdo. He invited you for clout.
Got him.
Oh yeah.
No, yeah. And actually, just to even let's just make this personal too and put it out there, which is a little bit weird with us, but it for the benefit of everybody else. I really respect Eric's thought process, his thoughtfulness, and how his brain works, and I've seen that by the D&D stuff that we kind of two ships passing in the night have like encountered each other, but then also I was like, all right, I'll follow him on Twitter. This guy's interesting. And then he puts his thoughts out there. And now all of a sudden I was like, this guy would be great to have on our conversational show where we talk about these subjects because, as was evident earlier, I can count on him to share his experience, whether we agree or disagree or have different thoughts, and then to engage, disengage, and just like that kind of meaningful conversation I'm attracted to. I think that's great to be around. I think it's cool to have. So I actually, and the other kind of funny thing, not to give I'm patting myself on the back, but I'm trying to talk about the evolution of me. I explicitly told Eric, I think it was either last episode or something. I was like, just basically that. I was like, I really like your thought process. I like the way you think. And it's kind of, at least in what I was raised, it's weird for males to tell each other that in particular, because it's like, it's again, that vulnerability where a guy could be like, wow, you're being a little bit too close, man. That's weird. Nobody says that, but they're just kind of like that. Like guys take, I don't know. Again, I'm speaking generalities. In my experience, a lot of guys take compliments difficult. It's hard for them to receive compliments, especially from another male. But I'm trying to do that more because every time I receive a compliment, I'm like, Jesus, that makes me feel really good. And then I'm like happy for 3 days. And I'm like, that's a cheap, easy thing for me to do, to tell these people that I really respect that I think they're cool or they're doing something awesome. And if that makes them feel better, then damn it, that's awesome. So I'm trying to do a better job of being more aware of that as well.
Yeah,
and it's because my friends helped me learn it.
Yeah, that's a very positive thing, and I hope everyone here can learn a little bit from that stuff too. Yeah, just those little like thank yous and compliments go a very long way.
And it's
good to see.
It's hard to do, online or off. It's I mean, for some people, by the way, some other people. Braun's talked about this in a previous episode, but she's like, some girls are like, "Fuck, you look amazing, Jesus Christ!" You know, it's like that's just that person or whatever. I could never do that, or at least I had a tougher time doing that in the past. I'm trying to be a better person about reinforcing the people around me that I do respect and telling them that. Because I find the opposite's true too in my own life journey. I've dated women or been with people where I'm like admiring the shit out of something, but just the way I process, I'm like internalizing and very quiet. And then later they'll be like, "You didn't even say anything about this thing I did." And I'll be like, "Oh my God, I was gushing about it. I think it's amazing." They're like, "Well, can you tell me?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry." Yes, yeah, I should. And they're not wrong, right? I just, whenever like things make me think or like something is impressive to me, I actually get more quiet usually. I'm not the kind of guy to like start screaming because I'm really impressed by something. I get more quiet, which is okay. It's not like that's wrong, but it's also good to work on yourself to try and communicate to those around you that there's some nice things they're doing.
It's tough because I have such a weird tone with things and I have to like be better about it. But I'm instead of being like, "We should hang out sometime," I'm the type of person that's like, I find you to be a very interesting person, and I feel like we could probably enjoy each other's company. And I really hope to grow closer with you in the coming days. And they're just like, "Did she eat people?"
Yeah.
Pretty sure if I opened her freezer, there'd be heads in there. And I do that. And I think that's where it came up with the compliments. Some people have this great delivery, like, "Damn, Jeff, you look fucking good today." And then there's me, and I'm like, "You have really nice calves." Jeff was walking on camera. I was like, "Your calves are very nice. They're like very shapely." And then I was like, immediately, I was like, "Idiot, don't say that."
It's hard.
Yes, very,
it's hard the first time too.
Who
very
just
normal.
says that?
Very,
Who's just
very
like,
normal.
You have very shapely calves. They're very lovely. Like,
I like how your body, just like my body, generates its own heat. It's so awesome. Yes. And these little meat sticks, these are incredible. I like them on you.
No, this is a really good example because that was also like the first time Bronze had complimented something like that. And not that she needs to ever do it again or every day or whatever, but it legitimately made me really happy that day. Like I told you that. We
yeah, that's good though, because then now I don't feel like a serial killer.
No. And here's how, like I said, this is like what I really want to impart on our audience. The effect was it made me want to do that for other people as well. Because I don't, that's just not who I am. I want to be, but I'm so afraid of being the weird creeper guy where I'm just like, "Wow, you look great. That's awesome." And they're like, "Jesus Christ. All right, I'm going to go now." And you're like, "Well, I'll just go cut my head off right now." But because she did that, it's like working on my internal. That felt good. I went and had a great workout because I was like, "Oh my God, it's working. These things are doing good." And then I want to do that for other people. I want to,
It's affirming.
Yeah.
You're affirming yourself, going to the gym. Like, I feel good about myself. These other things. You want to affirm other people too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I totally see that connection. I'm not saying that's the reason why. To me, that's what I see. Yeah.
Well, all right. Any final thoughts on friendship? But I love this, by the way, because I say this every episode, but I'm going to because I love it. Talked about friendship. But man, did we go everywhere, which is so cool. The friendship subject, of course, covers everything, but I love that we went deep.
We did. It's awesome.
That should be on our merch. We go deep.
Yeah. And we'll let the people decide whether or not that's a sexual reference or not.
Yeah.
Anything in the chat either, if there's something we didn't cover in the last couple minutes here?
I have something to say while we're scanning chat. So Eric Vulgaris, top tip number 3 for friendship.
Yeah.
When you meet people at meetups and stuff like that, when you want to go expand your boundaries and that kind of stuff, typically the person you're going to meet is not going to be your best friend, but they know your best friend. Like, it's the next person removed. they probably like, you find someone who's pretty cool there, and then usually their friend is the person you end up becoming really good friends with. It's been my experience time and time again. It's like the second order friends, like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon situation going down, because they end up knowing they're cool people.
Yeah.
Right.
I like it. So when I was younger, I've been around the situation, and maybe I've been a part of it. No examples come to mind, but like, you get jealous and upset. You're like, what the fuck? That was supposed to be my friend. And they go best friend, your other friend. But like, now I really take pride, and I love the experience of introducing people to each other, and then they really take off. Like I think, again, that comes from a place of privilege. I have a lot of really great friends. I'm very secure. I'm very confident in myself. I think if you're struggling with those things, that's obviously a tougher situation. So I'm not sitting here being like, this is how everyone should feel about that. But for me personally, I love it when that happens. I get that feeling a lot. This is kind of off topic, but whenever someone's like, hey, I started checking out Warhammer 40K because of you, I'm like, oh my God, I helped bring this person to something I like a lot. I see it the same way.
Oh, yeah.
I think for me, my takeaway is like, I'm really bad at it.
You think you're bad at making friends?
Yeah, I think so. For the reasons I outlined. And I was actually talking to a friend of mine when I was down in Burbank, and her and I were chilling after dinner, and I was like, we both came to the realization that we really wanted to be friends, but neither of us was like making that first move, and felt so silly about it, both of us, like, and I realized like all of it came out of me being like, I would really like to be your friend, and like, but I don't know, I don't know if you're busy or whatever. And she was like, oh my God, I would love to be your friend, and we became friends. So one thing that has been like branching out from that is I'm trying to be more honest about that stuff. And I think I talked about it last week, where I hit up some friends I hadn't talked to in a long time. And I was like, hey, I think about you all the time. And, I know our friendship kind of drifted apart, but I would love if we could close that distance a little bit. And those interactions have been so fucking good for me. So I think like that's part of me, is like having that emotional vulnerability to be able to tell people like, hey, I really miss you. I really miss what our friendship used to be. And I don't know why we drifted apart. I don't know if I did something, but I would love for us to be friends. And also having the vulnerability to say, hey, I think you're a really cool person. I know you're like in my area. It would be wonderful to get coffee with you.
That's really cool.
God, I'm sorry. Real quick, I have a friend that's like that, who's, when they're single, they're like, let's hang out, all these things. And they're dating, and then literally just go silence. They're just attached to that person.
That's a super common one. And all I would say to that, for, again, our listening audience, is just be aware of it. It happens naturally to some extent, obviously, especially new relationships, because you're like pouring yourself into this thing. But
really don't do it.
Yeah.
Try not to.
It's very akin to that feeling of the person that only reaches out when they need something. Like, hey, how you doing? Good. And you're like, well, I'm moving again. And you're like, okay. Like, last time we talked, you were moving. And you're like, yeah. What do you know? So, and it just kind of is a shitty feeling. Whereas if you like obviously make someone feel like they're important on some level, they're happy to help or be a part of your life. But when it's like a convenience thing, that sucks.
Yeah.
Do you have other tips? You said it was number 3.
No, I'm just pulling a number out my ass.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Yeah, so I was scanning the chat. Mostly, I think people are just like, that's a good talk. Didn't see any real questions there. But thank you guys so much. This is a great talk. Again, this is one of our longer episodes. Almost went the full 2 hours or so. And I think we could have spent even more time. I love this conversation. So appreciate that. Just to give the quick sellout moment here, I'm going to give we're going to give it over to these guys. They're going to talk about the things they do, but please at least follow them on Twitter. Bronze Girl is really funny. Eric is super thoughtful, and vice versa. They're everything. And then check out their channels. Eric needs to stream more, I think we could all say, but he's doing a lot of D&D stuff, and he's He just had a team kill. So he's one of those DMs that's not afraid to kill his entire group. That's great. And he is doing like experimental stylized D&D, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. You have to drop acid before you
do have to drop acid. So
mandatory.
It's a little bit harder to, yeah. Some people don't have access to that. If you don't, just like pump gas in your room or something like that. Then I'll turn it over to them, but this will go up live on YouTube within a day or two, as per usual. If you're on YouTube, we talked about some pretty deep subjects. Please just keep in mind that one of the things that we really like about this is that we share our opinions and thoughts with the idea that we're not necessarily going to be everything you agree with. Just please join in on the conversation respectfully, which, by the way, basically everyone has done. It's been really, really nice. There's obviously the guaranteed comments that are not super awesome, but for the most part, Please don't be afraid to jump in on the conversation and add it, and we'll talk with you as well. And then we should be back on next week. But before I shut off the stream, Eric, thank you once again for coming on. Can you talk about what you're doing and what people can check you out doing?
Yeah, man, you two, thank you so much for having me, chat. Thanks for coming, having good discussions this time. I love being here. Love to come back on again. I'm Eric. I'm Eric Vulgaris everywhere. I'm a part-time streamer. Also work for Roll20. Super into tabletop role-playing games of all kinds. And as Jeff said, also I really like just sort of the being thoughtful and kind and listening to other people, promoting other people's voices, and just hearing what else is out there. That's kind of my favorite thing. So I should stream more. I definitely should. It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't know what kind of games we should talk about streaming. I don't know.
Well, that's one of the topics. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So that's me. Thank you all so much. If you want to ever hit me up about, hey, I'm interested in D&D or I'm interested in role-playing games, but don't know what to do or how to play, literally hit me up. I'd be happy to do that stuff. I love showing people how to play games.
And he's not lying. He'll actually talk your ear off, and he loves that kind of stuff. Speaking of streaming, the hardest worker here, Bronze, what are you up to? What are you doing?
I don't know if I'm the hardest worker. Hi. Hello. For those of you that know me or check my shit out, I'm going to be gone for a couple of days this week, doing some work down in Burbank. And then I'm going to be in San Francisco hanging out with my friends. But typically I just do a morning show. I stream super early in the morning, hang out, do random things. You should follow me, not because I have a great personality, but because a subscription to that Bronze Girl is a vote for America.
Wow.
And
that's true.
That's really what it is.
You didn't get nerdgy with that one. He says, meh. Can you step it up? What else is it?
I don't want somebody named Nerdchi to follow me anyway.
Fair enough. I can hardly blame you.
The dude has been, look at his chat logs. He's clearly been vying for my attention the entire time he's been here.
Super attracted to you.
Yeah, it's awkward. No, I'm good.
The stream will probably go down for a little bit, but my friends are starting to show up, so we're going to play some Warhammer 40k. It's really chill. If you're interested in that kind of thing, it'll be like 5 hours of just guys rolling dice and hanging out and talking and playing Warhammer. What? Get over yourself. She was joking, man. Chill, bro. And it'll be up on YouTube. And I'm going to Warhammer 40k tournament this weekend, but otherwise, all the content's keeping going. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you for the platform, by the way. Like I said, every week this is one of my. I always like gush and get on Twitter. I'm like, oh my god, I love doing this show. I really do. I love talking about this stuff. And thank you, Bronze. Thank you, Eric.
Having fun too, Eric. Thank you for letting us grill you. You're muted.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, no reply. That's not what I would have done, but okay. Yeah.
I'm perpetually like honored and just like starstruck that I'd be here, that you guys want to talk to me so much about this stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. This is great.
Yeah. I feel the same. So thank you guys. That's it. We'll see you all later. Bye-bye.